So good afternoon everybody and welcome to today's webinar, which is a Green Gown Awards Exchange webinar. Coincidentally or not so, we have also just launched and gone live with the finalists for this year's Green Gown Awards. So if you would like to check out who are the finalists this year, then you can do so on the EAUC website and click on the Green Gown Awards tab. The title of this exchange webinar is Engaging Staff in Social Responsibility Initiative, and it's the University of Manchester School Governor Initiative. This exchange webinar will last approximately an hour and is in the staff engagement and also the community and public engagement life frameworks. And more about that can also be found on our website. And in terms of competency levels, it is starting out and on the road. Thank you for registering, and thanks also to today's speakers. We have Julian Skirm and Alison Gregory from the University of Manchester, and also Luke Dickinson from SGOSS Governors for Schools. My name is Emma, and I'm the Member Events and Communities Officer here at the EAUC. As you know, the EAUC delivered the Sustainability Exchange, which was initially a funded project from Headteacher and led by Staffordshire University. So what are exchanges? Exchanges are free lunchtime webinars on a range of sustainability topics. Anyone can present them. Just get in touch with us at sustainabilityexchange@eauc.org.uk or myself. This particular exchange webinar is part of a series of Green Gown Award webinars which feature winning and highly commended institutions from the 2013 awards. And again, more information about the Green Gown Awards can be found on the EAUC website and the Sustainability Exchange. So we've just got a little bit of housekeeping to go over now. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me okay. I have muted you all just to avoid any background noise so that you can hear as clearly as possible throughout today's webinar. If you do, however, have any issues hearing, you could just let me know in the chat box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and I'll try and sort it out the best I can. Hopefully most of you also have working microphones or have dialed in on a phone. Don't worry if not, as you'll still have the opportunity to ask any questions at the end of today's webinar by, again, typing them into the chat box. You will, however, be encouraged to ask questions at different points aloud by unmuting yourself. This webinar is being recorded so you can view it again or share it with colleagues. It will be made available on the Sustainability Exchange with the presentation and any other resources later on today, including the videos that you're going to see. After today's webinar, you'll be sent a short survey to gain your feedback. Please take time to complete this, as it only takes a couple of minutes, and it also helps us to improve our CPD and future training events. Okay, so that's it from me for now. Thank you again, and I will pass over to Julian.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. My name is Julian Skirm, and I'm the Director of Social Responsibility at the University of Manchester.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Alison Gregory, and I coordinate the School Governors Initiative for the University.
And hopefully Luke will introduce himself. I don't know if you can see Luke, but if Luke is there, you can say hello.
Hi there, my name is Luke Dickinson. I'm Senior Manager at SGOSS Governors for Schools, and a little later on I'll be talking to you a bit more about SGOSS as an organisation and our partnership with the University of Manchester. So
Alison and I are in Manchester, Luke is in London, and welcome everyone. We understand we have somebody from Australia where it's 10:05 at night, so you're also very welcome to this webinar. I'll give you an overview as to what we'll be covering in the webinar. Four things essentially. We're going to talk first of all about why we developed this initiative. That's the first thing. Secondly, we're going to talk about how we've developed the initiative. Thirdly, what we've achieved by this initiative, some of the impact and the outputs and outcomes. And then fourthly, which I think hopefully this will be very beneficial for colleagues here today, around how we've tried to share best practice in this and take a leadership role in this agenda. And today's webinar is part of that, to try and share our experiences at the university with other colleagues throughout the country. So that's the structure. At the end, there's a long opportunity to ask questions. We're hoping 15 or 20 minutes towards the end we'll be able to ask questions. We'll also be playing you some videos as well. So just to put this initiative into context, the University of Manchester has just 3 different goals. Our first goal is world-class research. Our second goal is outstanding learning and student experience. But distinctively for a university, our third goal, right up there and equally alongside research and the student experience, is social responsibility. Think about this goal as being what the university is good for. The other two goals, research and teaching, we often think of this in terms of what we're good at, and we measure how good we are at our research and how good we are at our teaching. Think of this third goal as what we're good for, and that really describes social responsibility at Manchester. And we're making a number of positive contributions to society, to culture, to the environment and to the economy. And that really describes both through our research and teaching, but a range of other activities at the university, the range of ways in which we're making a positive contribution to society. So this initiative is part of that third goal of the University of Manchester. The social responsibility is led by the President of the University, our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Dame Nancy Rothwell. So she personally chairs the governance group for social responsibility, of which this School Governance Initiative reports through. And that's just a screen grab from a video you can watch on YouTube of Nancy's launch speech of our strategy, which we developed last year, where she talked about the School Governor Initiative amongst a range of other things. And social responsibility for us, we have 5 strategic priorities in this area. You can see them in the different colours on your screen, hopefully. Research with impact is one of our priorities. Secondly, to create more socially responsible graduates. Thirdly, to engage our communities of where this initiative particularly sits. Fourthly, to have responsible processes, whether that's in HR or procurement, for example, at the university. And fifthly, environmental sustainability. So there are 5 strategic priorities for social responsibility, and this initiative fits into the brown coloured one at the bottom, engaging our communities. And also we've developed a small range of what we call signature programs. Those signature programs, we have 6 of those at the moment, and the School Governor Initiative is one of our 6 key programs. So we've put extra amounts of effort into driving impact in these small number of areas where we think we have a distinctive contribution to make to society and where we can genuinely be distinctive and create enormous impact. So that's the context of the School Governor Initiative. Each of these signature programs has an objective. So for us, the School Governor program, we set out in one sentence, we think, what encapsulates what we're trying to achieve through this initiative and the impact we feel we can get. So you can read it there yourselves, but it's to contribute to the leadership and management of state schools by engaging staff and alumni in creating the largest growth of school governors of any employer in the UK by 2014-15. So we developed this initiative and just last year, and we wish to create, as you say, the fastest growth. There aren't statistics available on the total number of governors, so we couldn't measure that. But when we began this initiative, we wanted to create the largest growth, and we'll show you some data later which demonstrates that we've already achieved that goal a year ahead of schedule. So that was our very simple goal, but what we wanted to do and what we wanted to achieve. There are a number of reasons why we developed this initiative. You could perhaps divide these into the social needs and the organisational case for developing this. In terms of the social needs, you may be aware that volunteer school governors are the largest volunteering force in education in the UK. And school governors make a massive contribution to the strategic direction and the setting of priorities and holding head teachers and senior leaders in schools to account. It's a very important role. Despite the importance of school governors as a role, it was evident to us when we looked into this that many state schools, particularly surrounding the university in less advantaged circumstances, were struggling to recruit sufficient quality and quantity of school governors. So there's a real need in our locality. The role of school governors has become more important than ever, with ever more schools becoming academies. They have extra responsibilities, and the role of governance, particularly through Ofsted inspections, is now more critical than ever. So schools really need skilled staff. Within the university then, we had a range of talented staff. We have world-class academics, but we also have a large number of professional support service staff who have exactly the sorts of skills which are able to make a positive contribution to state schools. That's what we can offer to society, but of course we have also benefited enormously by taking part in this initiative. So we'll talk about some of these later, but our own staff have developed a range of organisational skills which they're able to bring back into the workplace from being a school governor. We have a widening participation strategy within the university, as many universities do, to reach out to potential applicants of higher education from less advantaged backgrounds, and this certainly supports that agenda. We obviously do research and teaching in the university, and we do those things on education, and this initiative has enabled us to make better links there. And obviously we're keen to engage our alumni, and this initiative is a good example of how you can engage alumni. So that's the overview. In terms of how we went about this initiative then, we started off undertaking a consultation, particularly locally with head teachers and with chairs of school governors, with the City Council in Manchester Local Authority and Manchester City Council, and also with our own staff. We undertook a consultation about how we could make impact in this very important agenda for schools. We then set about undertaking some research to think, well, if we wanted to contribute staff in roles as volunteer school governors, who out there was doing this already and who could we partner with? And I'm delighted with our partnership with SGOSS, Governors for Schools. By having such a partnership within the university, that if I had to give one reason why we've created the biggest impact in the country as any employer, it would be through the partnership that we have with SGOSS, Governors for Schools. So we set about to create a partnership with SGOSS. And then thirdly then, the stage was to deliver this initiative. We set ourselves a baseline. We found out how many of our staff were currently working as school governors, set a baseline, and then we set out through various recruitment channels to recruit more staff to add to that initial baseline. And again, SGOSS were very helpful and careful with that. So what I'm going to do now is to hand over to Luke Dickinson, who's a senior manager at SGOSS and has worked with us for the past 2 years on this initiative, and he's going to tell you about our partnership with SGOSS. So over to Luke.
Hi there, everyone. Well, first of all, I'm going to start off with telling you a bit more about SGOSS and who we are. As you can see there, our vision is for every school in England to have a diverse and effective governing body that really helps support and drive school improvement. How do we go about this? Well, we provide a free brokerage, or as we like to say, a dating service between volunteers who wish to become school governors and schools who are actually looking for new, fresh governors. We work with any school, college, or local authority that has governor vacancies, and importantly, any employer who wishes to support them. SGOSS itself is an independent charity funded by the DfE and other trustees. And I suppose the question that we get commonly asked is, are we good at what we do? And well, since 2000, we've placed 18,000 or over 18,000 now school governors. So we like to think we know our stuff. I'd now like to show you a quick video which highlights the kind of marketing tools or materials that we have at our disposal to help promote the role of school governance, but also we are able to lend to employers to help back up the promoting of school governance. A good example of this is sort of while the University of Manchester were looking into creating their own video content and material, they were able to use this video, a good example, to support that process and make sure that people have plenty of information in the meantime. I hope you all enjoyed that. I suppose the next logical way to move on is what does SGOSS do in terms of working with employers? Well, we work with employers directly to help embed school governor volunteering as part of your or their CR or CSR or sustainability program. Once we've engaged with this, we then work with each employer to plan and deliver a bespoke recruitment strategy tailored to your or their ambition or capability. So no matter how wide or how small an impact you want school governors to have, you can fit that around however you want to go about it. We are on hand to answer any questions, if that's your account manager, in terms of how to go about the above process, or if that's local area managers that help guide your volunteers through the application process from start to finish. As I touched on, once a volunteer completes a simple online application form, our local area managers use their preferences that they state within the application form to find the right school governor vacancy for them and their specific skills. I've now gone to the next slide, which talks a bit more about our partnership with the University of Manchester specifically and how we've worked with them to deliver this initiative, which has gone on to be so successful. Where we actively support regular University of Manchester staff and alumni recruitment and networking activities and events. We help produce a variety of bespoke promotional recruitment materials, whether that be directly to schools or directly to volunteers, some of which we see in later slides, as well as specific University of Manchester landing page for their alumni, which is hosted sort of as an extension of our own website. Our local area manager teams provide regular volunteer progress updates to Julian and Alison at the University of Manchester, from new volunteer applications to ones that have been successfully placed. So the idea is that no matter what stage your employees are at, we can let you know and we can track their progress and inform you sort of however you'd like us to do that. And their account manager, which is me, provides more detailed impact data and other additional supporting statistics. Things from like percentage recruitment in certain areas, or whether that be number of children impacted, or the amount of hours contributed into the community by your employees. So any of that kind of information we can help you with and we can provide for you. I really hope this has been informative. If there's any questions that come into your head throughout these 3 slides in the video, please don't hesitate to take the time at the end to ask any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. So we're just going to talk a little bit now about the impact that we've created. Part of this was ensuring that we had a good recruitment strategy. We mentioned we established a baseline within the university of existing governors, and we wanted to drive more people to become school governors. So you'll notice on the left-hand side the picture where it says interested in volunteering. This was a publication which SGOSS already had, which you can simply put your logo on and some tailored text. And we used this around campus to recruit staff. The photo in the bottom right, which Alison and I are in actually, just noticed that, that's an event we held, and we had a number of these in the university where people could drop in, staff, over lunchtime, get a free cup of tea or coffee and a cake, and talk to people, members of staff who are already school governors, about what's involved. And SGOSS come up to campus with us, and they're on hand actually to talk about some really specific vacancy information in the local area, for example. So as Luke said, they act like a dating service. If you want to become a governor, you want to find not your love but your school, you can register, and schools then who are looking for partners, who are looking for governors, they can register, and what they essentially do is match these two things together where there's the greatest need. The publication on the top right there is some information which, again, this is a brochure we sent out recently directly to schools and colleges, talking about some of the benefits of having University of Manchester staff on governing bodies. And again, SGOSS developed that with us to drive more schools to consider registering the fact that they may have vacancies on their governing bodies via SGOSS. So essentially, SGOSS handle the vast majority of the administration of this initiative, and Alison's going to speak in a moment about what she does, which is being the key contact and driver of this initiative within the university. But I think it's fair to say that we wouldn't have created any of this impact to the same degree without SGOSS's partnership with us. So in terms of that impact, we mentioned around staff. We started off with a baseline of 52 staff, and you can see that this has gone up enormously over the past 2 years. That's looking at staff vacancies. We now have around over 130 members of staff who are school governors, and that's created a huge impact, as you can see from our initial baseline. In terms of national impact, and the reason, again, I should say that we can give you these statistics today is through our partnership with SGOSS, who collect data on all of the major organisations in the UK and how many and the speed at which they are placing school governors, placing people from those organisations into schools as school governors. So this piece of data that you can see in front of you now shows the number of registrations of people from these organisations to become school governors between the 1st of April in 2013 to the 31st of March 2014. And as you can see there, the NHS, who are number 2 in terms of growth of governors, and they are the biggest employer in Europe, we've created more than twice the rate of growth of the National Health Service, which we're extremely proud of, and I think that shows having a focus on a particular initiative, and we've had a big focus and drive on this in the university, the type of impact universities can create. Now that is registrations of staff and alumni, and I'm going to talk to you about alumni in a moment. But you can see it's an enormous rate of growth, and it's something, I don't think we could have predicted that when we began this initiative, but that certainly has been something that's we're very pleased about and surprised. So Alison now is going to talk to you about the support we offer governors, because Alison spends quite a large proportion of her working week being the key person driving this initiative within the University of Manchester.
Okay, so hi everybody. Well, when launching the university's Governor Initiative, we felt it was really important to provide internal support to our staff, given that we were actively encouraging people to support the initiative. So as well as being supported by the university's public leave policy to take time off for governor duties, we also felt it was really important that staff choosing to become a school governor should feel part of a wider network so that they could benefit from peer support and other people's experiences of being a governor. Now, the university is a really large and diverse workplace, and what we've been able to do is bring people together who wouldn't otherwise have had any contact in their university role. But our network, as Julian said, now comprises 130 members of staff ranging from lecturers and professors, administrators, professional support staff, people working in various departments such as estates, IT, library services, and all of these people, although they work in very different parts of the university, they all share a very common purpose and a common interest in being a school governor, and it's great that these people can come together through the Governor Network to share their experiences of being a school governor. When we launched UMSCI, we also recognised that we had people within the university who'd been a governor for several years, and so we very much wanted those people to be part of the network so that they could share their experiences that they'd gained over the years with those just joining the school governor network. So in addition to the kind of peer-to-peer support, what we've also been able to provide our governors with is a range of support services or support mechanisms. We hold 3 network meetings per year. We usually meet for about 1.5 to 2 hours, and we have a part fixed agenda for general updates and anything new and relevant that we want to share with our governors. But this is always also followed by time for guest speakers or just for general discussion amongst the network. And people do enjoy coming to those lunchtime network meetings just to meet with colleagues across the university who are doing a similar role to themselves. We also organise, in addition to those network meetings, we often organise information sessions or ad hoc training for governors. So if we meet contacts who can provide support to our governors, then we can arrange for those people to come into the university and speak to members of the network if they want to come along. A really big part of our support is our annual conference. We've now run 2 annual conferences for our governors, and these have been really popular, and they've been supported by a range of external speakers. And again, they're a great opportunity for networking. We've used in the past our more experienced members of the network to share information and experiences with the network, but we've also brought in external speakers as well. People, for example, from the National Governors Association, the Department for Education, the National College and the Fisher Family Trust. So the conferences are very broad, and we like to cover a range of topical information at those. Social media is a great way for governors to communicate with each other. We've got a LinkedIn governors group for both staff and for alumni, and we also use a Twitter account to keep in touch with the wider governor networks who are also very active on Twitter. And governors can ask for help and advice using these forums. The external organisations I've mentioned, people such as the National Governors Association, we receive bulletins, newsletters, updates and reports from them on a regular basis, and we're able to feed this information back to our network and keep everyone informed. And as a university, we also link with several external, we also link with the national leaders of governance, of who we've got contact with many, and these have been a great support to us during the initiative. One of the most kind of simplest and most effective ways of getting information out to our governor network has been through email communication. This way we can reach our governors quickly, as well as send targeted emails according to which sector they're in. So whether it's relevant to primary schools, secondary schools or sixth form, college governors, it's really easy for someone like myself to quickly send out information that's relevant to them. This has worked very well when wanting to signpost governors to specific information such as events and talks. And it's also been very useful in asking governors to pass on information to their schools and colleges that the university wants to make them aware of. So, for example, events taking place on campus for schools and college students and having direct and regular contact with the network has benefited many of our governors and their schools alike. So just in summary, there is a wide range of support in place for governors, and I think the biggest benefit has been from those personal contacts that our staff have been able to make through the initiative. This could either be from finding out that a person you've worked with for many years is also a school governor, to meeting a new colleague from a completely different part of the university through your involvement in the network. A network of support is very valuable, and we know that having this has made people feel more confident about signing up to be a school governor.
Thank you, Alison. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about impact and also show you some videos now of case studies of members of staff who have become school governors and the types of difference that makes to schools. Just to put what Alison has said into context now, between staff and alumni, we have 241 currently people who are volunteer school governors. We know through our work with SGOSS, who help us with this data, we can estimate that's having an impact on around about 85,000 learners. We know that creates around 3,000 days of volunteering time. And just for our staff, that 130-ish governors, we know that creates an economic value to the local region where our staff are governors in the Greater Manchester area predominantly. We know that creates around £750,000 of economic impact in terms of the time that they're contributing. And we commissioned, we'll send a link out about this in the notes, we commissioned an independent economic study of a range of initiatives within the university, and that's where we got that figure of the economic value of time that staff were spending on being school governors. Because whilst they volunteer that time for free, the opportunity cost of them doing that, the time that they could have spent on other activities is worth that amount of money. So it's a tremendous economic value as well that big organisations like our own can create within their locality. So just to give you some context about the very local area surrounding the university, we're based in the city of Manchester, and there's 175 schools and academies currently in Manchester and a school population of just over 70,000 learners. But to give you an idea of the context we're in, 18% of people in England are eligible for free school meals, which is roughly coming from a family where the income in that family, in that household rather, is less than £16,000 per year. In Manchester, there's 35% of pupils are eligible for free school meals. So more than 1 in 3 families have an income of less than £16,000 per year. And that makes Manchester the 4th most deprived authority in England, according to the Index of Multiple Deprivation. Despite that, schools in Manchester are good. 79% of them are judged either good or outstanding. But continuing to drive improvements in attainment in Manchester is absolutely critical to the local region. By getting a good range of GCSEs or A-levels or equivalent, this is the main way in which opportunities will be created for young people in the city where the university is based. So we know how important educational attainment is to the locality. It's very important socially, culturally, and economically as well, in terms of the future economic sustainability of Manchester, which has been an incredibly successful place economically, and education is key to that. So this allows us to play an important civic mission in our locality. So I'm now going to give you 3 case studies of the impact governance has. 2 of them are members of staff, and 1 is from a head teacher giving his perspective of having University of Manchester staff as school governors. So this first person we'll show you is called Rachel Brealey. She's a very senior member of staff. She's a director of faculty operations in one of our faculties. And she's a primary school governor. She's now a chair of governor, actually, at Chapel Street Primary School. So I'll just give you, I'll play you a short video of what Rachel has been reflecting on the impact she's been able to make as a school governor.
I'm chair of governors at Chapel Street Primary School in Levenshulme. It's a big
In terms of looking at impact in this area, as you can now see very clearly in Ofsted reports references to the quality of governance, excuse me, and we are looking at that data as a way of demonstrating, well, what difference are members of staff making in terms of Ofsted inspections? And there's a quote there from the recent Ofsted inspection saying that the governing body is better informed than in the past. It has a greater understanding of the school's strengths and areas for development, and it's increasingly involved in school self-evaluation and holding school leadership to account. And obviously Rachel, who you've just heard from, is the chair of governors at that institution. So we can see the kinds of impact that somebody like Rachel is making. I'd now like to give you, to play you a short video from a person now, Aneez Esmail, who's a professor and a general practitioner within the university. And he's chair also of a local high school, different to Rachel, is a primary school, a high school, where actually his own children went to that school. It's a state school in South Manchester. It's moved from satisfactory to good in terms of Ofsted. More recently, and the governance was judged as being outstanding. So there's a quote there about the governing body saying it provides a very high level of support and challenge. It's fortunate to have a good range of skilled and committed members, and it says that structures for managing its business, such as the scrutiny committee, enable its functions to be carried out in a highly effective way. We've got much more evidence of this. There are just some snippets there from the Ofsted report. And what I'll do now is play you some of Aneez's reflections on the contribution he makes and what he thinks the university makes from having people working in schools as school governors.
Well, I think it makes a difference in 3 ways.
Hi all, it does appear that the videos aren't quite working at the moment. I'm hoping that maybe the last one will. I'm not too sure what's happening with the format or whether they've downloaded properly into WebEx. These videos will be made available later on, and I'll be sure to send around the link so you can sort of understand what Julian is talking about and also gain more from the webinar by being able to actually watch the videos.
For that, Emma, they worked okay in our test, so apologies about that. That's the perils of technology. But Aneez, if I can just say what he was saying there, he, from his perspective as a chair of governors in a local high school, he feels that having a university member of staff on the governing body is something that can make a huge contribution, not just in terms of the skills he can bring, but also the knowledge he's got of different opportunities within the university that school could be accessing. So, for example, he can put that school in touch with particular outreach initiatives that the school is organising. We have a museum and an art gallery. We have a Jodrell Bank Observatory, which has a science centre. We have a public library. So he can put the school in touch to engage with these different opportunities. And you know, any employer can do this. If you weren't a university, you were an accountancy firm, for example, it may be that you could, as a member of that governing body, could be helping that school find work experience placements or shadowing opportunities or internships. So I think using not just the skills you've got, but the organisational capital that you have in terms of the knowledge you've got of how a particular organisation works can be incredibly important for a school. So that was Aneez. We will try this video now, but Emma will tell me very quickly if this doesn't work. But this next video we'll try and play you is from Fenn, who is quite a prominent head teacher in Burnage School, which is a very local high school to the university. It's the governance is considered to be very effective, and we have two different members of staff who work at this school as governors, who we've recruited very, very recently through the School Governor Initiative. One of them is a very eminent academic member of staff in our Faculty of Education, and the other person works delivering outreach activities for the university in our Widening Participation team, and both of those members of staff have been able to make an enormous contribution in a very short time. So I'll try to play this video. I suspect it won't work, but I'll give it a go, and Emma can interject if it doesn't. Okay, she's told us no. That's a shame, and apologies for that. But we will ensure, as Emma said, that we give you links to those videos. We have a single video on YouTube, actually, which we'll send you the link to, which has all three of those videos and a little bit more context. So we'll make sure you get a link about that. So, in terms of uniqueness, this was information pulled together by Manchester City Council recently when we did a presentation with them. And from their point of view, they obviously, as a city council, they're trying to drive up standards in schools in the local region, and they're very appreciative of the initiative that we've developed, because we've created by far the biggest engagement and contribution to school governance of any employer in the city. What they feel is unique, though, there's many employers providing school governance, is what Alison talked about earlier, the type of support that this university offers, not just to recruit and place people into schools. That's good for outputs, but in terms of creating good outcomes, the work that we're doing, they feel as a city council, is driving forward good quality governance, not just quantity. So by having networks and providing training and support opportunities to staff, the city council feel that what we do is actually unique in terms of the different people they work with to encourage people to become school governors. And now I want to quickly touch on how it's benefited us as an organisation. We've talked a lot about how school governors benefit society, but of course, and this is the unexpected part of this initiative, there were a number of benefits back into the university. So first of all, in HR terms, we asked staff about whether being a school governor allows you to develop new skills and knowledge which you can apply back into the university. And 100% of the people we surveyed said that their school governor experience did actually provide them with new skills. I think about this one member of staff who is a governor in Burnage School, which we just mentioned, a very young member of staff in her mid to late 20s, and this is a person now who is able to make decisions on school budgets. She's looking at management accounts, looking at the estate and looking at capital programs within the school, and also involved in recruiting senior members of staff. These are good examples of experiences that you wouldn't get at that age in a big organisation like the University of Manchester, but this relatively young member of staff, certainly younger than me, is able to get that type of experience, which she wouldn't be able to do that at the moment in the university. So I think that's a good example of how this is not just an altruistic initiative, there are many benefits back into us as an organisation. There's just a screen grab from a policy that we developed to ensure that our members of staff who wanted to become school governors were able to get time off. So we developed a new policy within the university to ensure that anybody becoming a governor, that they were able to leave early if they needed to go to meetings. They were able to take some time out within reason to go and visit the school. It may be to be on an interview panel or to observe something within the school which was important to their role as a governor. And that policy, which has allowed us to develop policies for time off for this initiative, has helped us apply this in other areas within the university. So this has helped us in terms of developing good HR policies. Of course, we're a university committed deeply to widening participation. Within the Russell Group of universities, we have the highest number of students from state schools and colleges, from low participation neighbourhoods, and from lower socio-economic groups. So we're very successful at widening participation within our sector of universities, and this initiative has allowed us to strengthen our relationships with many local schools. By having a member of staff on those governing bodies, it's allowed us to form deeper and closer relationships with schools. In terms of research, obviously we are a research-intensive university, so one of the key features of our university is we want to develop new knowledge to important issues. Education is obviously a very important issue to us from a research perspective. This initiative has allowed us to apply elements of research into schools via our governors. So a good example recently is we've been doing some research on the impact of the pupil premium, and we've been able to use that research to pass that on to our governors to hold those schools to account in terms of how they are using their pupil premium money. So lots of good examples. We have academics who have undertaken research on school governance in disadvantaged circumstances. So it's very good examples of the ways in which this initiative is supporting the university's research agenda. We also teach future generations of teachers. So we provide PGCE education programs at this university, and we can use our School Governor initiative to ensure that the education that our future teachers are getting at the university, they're able to understand what school governance is and the importance of governors to them when they enter the profession, to understand what their role is as a school governor and how being a teacher in an institution, how it's important as part of that profession to understand issues of governance. In terms of alumni relations, we are very keen within the university to extend and deepen our relationship with our former students. This initiative has been fantastic for doing this. The typical way in which universities approach their alumni in the context of fundraising, and certainly that's a very important mission of this university, to engage former students in supporting various research activities, for example funding cancer research or scholarships for students from less advantaged backgrounds. But also our alumni have had a tremendous response, our former students, to us going to them and saying, actually wherever you live in the UK, you can become a school governor because you've developed certain skills through being a student at a university like Manchester, which you can certainly apply in the workplace. So we have had a tremendous impact right across the UK. Lots of people in London, for example, former students who are now school governors. And they're examples from our couple of alumni magazines where we profiled this initiative. And just finally, to wrap up, in terms of sharing practice, we're really keen to share our lessons, what we've learned through developing this initiative within the university. Why we're doing this webinar today, we won the International Prize for Social Responsibility for this initiative. There's some quotes there from what the judges said about this initiative. And there's a picture of Alice and myself and Luke and a few other people picking up that international award, which we were delighted to get that recognition. But it's not just about getting recognition. I think for us it's important now to use our experience we've got and share that as much as possible with others. And again, SGOSS have been really helpful with this. This is a publication. Here it is in hard copy form. We've developed a publication which is a how-to guide for any university. You can access that from the SGOSS website. And that basically takes you through how we've gone about this initiative and how that could be implemented within your own university. So we're keen to share that knowledge. We have also, as we mentioned earlier, developed a publication for schools which tells them how they can access some of our school governor initiatives. So we're really keen to share practice as much as possible, and we get invited now via SGOSS to various breakfast meetings with Lord Nash, who's a Minister for Schools responsible for school governance, because he's keen and is very much championing getting very good quality people to perform this important role as school governors. So that's our presentation. We have now a good around 15 minutes, I think, to answer any questions which you've got about our initiative, whether that's to Alison, myself, or indeed to Luke. So please now feel free to answer any to ask any questions, and we'll do our best to answer.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julian, Alison and Luke. As Julian just said, yes, this is now your opportunity as delegates to ask any questions to today's speakers and to do so live. I'll just give you a couple of minutes. You might need a few just to think about what you're going to ask. And in the meantime, I'll just remind you that you can either type them in the chat box and send them to myself or to the whole group, might be better. Or indeed, if you would like to, you can unmute yourself and ask a question aloud. If you just introduce yourself and where you're from, and if it's a question to a specific speaker, then just say who that is to. But as I said, I'll give you a couple of minutes now, and then we'll start with questions.
Unlike in a classroom, you can't name and shame somebody and say, I think you should ask a question. So I promise not to do that, but I do have all your names here, I must warn you, so I might pick a name out in a moment. Do you fund this through your WP funding? That's a really good question. The short answer to that is yes. So Alison, you'll notice from her title, is a Widening Participation Officer at the University of Manchester. We put this initiative into our 2012 Access Agreement. We estimate now, I always get this wrong, but it's Alison spending perhaps 3 or 4 days of her working week on this initiative, coordinating it within the university. She spends the rest of her time doing outreach work with primary school learners. So it's not the only thing she does. So, and Alison's an experienced member of staff in the Widening Participation team. So we absolutely count this towards our access agreement and offer, are very comfortable with that, and they think it's a very innovative use of our funding.
Yeah. Obviously there are busier times of years than other times. So when I'm organising the conference for staff, then yes, it does take up more of the working week. At this time of year, I'm kind of concentrating more on the outreach. So the time spent on this initiative does vary throughout the year.
So hopefully that answers your question, Louise. We have now another question from Sarah Lickus to everyone. And Sarah says that we are currently working in our university on a school governor initiative, but have had difficulty accessing information to find out who is a governor due to HR regulations. We asked colleagues to contact us and received about 40-ish replies, but we are sure there are many more who haven't come forward yet. Any suggestions? Well, very familiar issue for us, Sarah. We didn't have an automatic way through HR, so we had a web form that staff could fill in to tell us that they were school governors. We had a baseline of 52, but the interesting thing was that by doing this and publicising the fact we wanted more governors, and we knew this wasn't the full amount of governors, and I know people who are governors in the university that don't wish to tell us and don't wish to be part of the initiative, and that's fine. That's perfectly their freedom to do that. But the interesting thing that happened, people who missed that initial survey that we did, because we publicised the fact we wanted new governors, lots of people came out of the woodwork in the next 12 months. So the fact you got 40, I think, is fantastic. I'd be very relaxed about that, and I'd get on with recruiting more governors, and you'll find that existing people who missed this will definitely come out the woodwork, either directly or indirectly. Other people will tell you. So I hope that gives you some advice, Sarah, but it's very, very similar at the University of Manchester.
Yeah, that's absolutely the same number. We did end up with 52 as our baseline, but we thought we'd actually halted around 37, 38. So yeah, don't be worried about the 40. It's a good number to start off with.
And Sarah just said thanks as well, in case you haven't said that. So I hope that answers that question. Does anybody want to ask Luke a question? Luke and SGOSS have been absolutely key, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of being a partner to the university. And if you've not come across SGOSS and you're wondering how that works, you may have some questions to Luke, which you could do now. Obviously, you could give him a call. You can look at the SGOSS website, and it's got a telephone number on there. You can speak to him personally. But you may have questions about our relationship with SGOSS and how that works, either to ourselves or to Luke. So by all means, feel free to direct any questions to him as well. So somebody's unmuted themselves, I think, trying to ask a question.
Oh, we have, hello, it's Emma. We have a question here from Nick and Sue. They said, apologies that they missed the first few slides of the presentation, and they're asking, are staff allowed time off to undertake governor duties, and how much? And sorry if it's already been answered. And they're from Nottingham Trent University.
So it's a good question. We did touch on this in the presentation, but this gives me a chance to say just a little bit more about this. Because this is one of our key initiatives within the university, we made a special case to allow staff to have time off for this. Now, within the University of Manchester, like other universities listening today, we are charities. So it's quite difficult for charities to give money or time to other charities without a strong justification. You have to be careful about that in legal terms. It's different to being a private company, for example. But we felt that this initiative was justifiably key to our mission as a university, our educational mission, in terms of reaching out to different types of learners and supporting educational excellence. So we made the case. We worked very carefully and closely with our Director of HR, and the Director of HR myself wrote the policy specifically for school governors. When we did this, we were trying to avoid two extremes, really. One was that we'd give an open door to say that you could spend, 26 weeks of the year in your school as a governor. Of course, you can't do that. We're also trying to avoid the other extreme, where managers wouldn't support their staff to become school governors, when actually it was an institutional goal. So we did give a ballpark figure where we said we would ordinarily expect this to be no more than around 5 days a year. Most meetings happen after school, but some don't happen after school. They start at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Where that was the case, we would give staff time to do this. And also, there are examples of important responsibilities you have as a governor, for example, recruiting a head teacher and being on an interview panel where you may need a whole day to be part of this, or even 2 days. So we felt that was important to state that we would support this wherever possible. Of course, some jobs have particular business needs. If you work in customer services, there may need to be cover for staff. All of those things need to be taken care of. But what we wanted to do is to have a supportive and positive message for members of staff and managers to see that we were supporting this initiative. So that's the answer to Nicola or Nikki's point there. And we've just had some other questions in as I was answering that. So this is from Sarah Lickett. Have you considered working with other universities in your region, e.g. Manchester Met, to broaden the project and impact? At the moment, we haven't done that, but we're now definitely in the territory where we want to be sharing what we're doing. And we've a number of universities we've presented to through the Russell Group of Universities, through Action on Access, and through the Russell Group of Registrars. We are highlighting awareness of this initiative, and many universities are coming to us and asking us how we did it. In terms of a partnership with other universities, I think the key thing is to have the partnership with SGOSS, actually. We're very happy to share anything. This is why we're doing the webinar today, about tips, tricks, advice. But the real partnership where you'll drive impact is with SGOSS, actually, having the data sharing agreements with those. Although I take the point that Manchester Metropolitan University have, in the same way as we do, have a tremendous amount of skilled staff who can be school governors. They don't currently have this initiative, but it's something, obviously, that we can be working with them on. That was Sarah's question, and then we've had another question then from David Chapman, David's question was, what techniques did you find work the best to recruit people who wish to take part in the initiatives? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, all of the recruitment of school governors, recruitment to SGOSS, and you know, over the last few years, SGOSS have come onto campus several times, and we've advertised on our staff net, so on our intranet to staff that SGOSS are going to be available, and that if people wanted a chance to find out more about the initiative or being a school governor, that they come to a set place at a set time on a particular day. And we just kept it as an open drop-in session, but we also organised for there to be presentations around the drop-in. So SGOSS had a set time when they were going to give a more formal presentation, and we advertised that as well. So we never quite knew how many would turn up, but we always had a good number of people coming to make the initial inquiry. And if they were happy with the information that they were given, then they could just register online with SGOSS. What we also found worked really well is just having some current governors available as well as SGOSS for our staff to talk to. So it was good for staff to see other members of staff who were school governors, and they could ask them how it was being a governor, how much time was involved, what the best and worst parts of it were, etc. So yeah, just quite an informal way of helping SGOSS recruit some staff. And we kept the profile of our initiative really high by putting it in our staff magazines, staff bulletins, etc.
Yeah, just to add to Alison as well, one of the, when we first kicked this initiative off, we got our president, she does a weekly message to staff, and we got her to make reference to this and have a web link to say that we are launching this initiative, and I encourage members of staff to get involved in this. And having those senior champions, I think, is important. Professor Aneez Esmail, I mentioned earlier, has a leadership position within the university. He's a chair of governors. I think we've used him a lot, and I think that's been very beneficial. I'm a governor myself. So when I speak to our staff network, I think I can speak from experience about this as well. So having people in senior positions who are able to talk themselves about this initiative, that word of mouth, I think, is very important. And then using communication channels within universities, we have faculties who have their own communications officers, and then using people in those faculties. So if we're trying to get more people in the Faculty of Life Sciences to become a governor, it's pointless me being the profile. Use somebody, an academic in life sciences, to be the case study to do that. So we found those sorts of techniques, the personal ones, word of mouth. We're also using StaffNet and various communication channels. They work the best, David.
Lovely. I have a couple of questions that have been sent to myself as well. So we have a question here saying, do all areas of the university engage, or were there any difficulties in implementing the policy in certain areas? And if so, how did you overcome those?
Yeah. Well, I think the surprising thing, well, it's perhaps not surprising now we know this, was the slight difference in the amount of academic staff as opposed to professional support services staff who came forward to be governors. So we have around 130 staff who are governors in the university, but it's about 1 in 50, around 2% of our professional support services members of staff are now governors, and it's about 1% of our academics. So you're around twice as likely to become a school governor if you're in a non-academic role. And we have around 11,000 staff, and about 5,000 of those, nearly half of them, are non-academic positions. So half the university, are in non-academic roles, they're much more likely, twice as likely, to come forward as school governors. So what we've done in terms of trying to reach more academic members of staff, we have a simple monitoring tool now. We've got data, so Alison's able to collect data on the numbers of people who are school governors in those faculties, and the leaders in those faculties, the associate deans for social responsibility, they've actually set themselves targets to increase the number of staff in their faculties who will become school governors. So it's that age-old thing of trying to have some numerical aspiration or target with this, where we feel we can create more impact. So that's how we're getting more people to come forward, is trying to look at where there are some of these gaps and targeting some of our messages towards those members of staff. So I hope that answers that question via Emma.
Thank you. I'm sure it does. I have another question from Nick and Suze again. They are asking whether there is a best time of year to recruit.
That's a good question, because we've done this as a continuous kind of recruitment campaign. You can go on any time to our website. We tweet about it. We use profiles about it. We've had there hasn't been a particular time of year where we put all our energy into. Although when we first launched the initiative, we were careful to use the best channels and use a number of them all at once. So in terms of time of the year, I think the key thing, we're speaking from a university context, is obviously not to do that in the summer when people are not around, or over Christmas or over Easter. So when we launched this, it was at a time of year when we knew all members of staff were around. But I don't think, from our perspective, we have any evidence that a particular time of year is better or worse, as long as you pick a time of year when everybody is around. And for those people listening who are not in universities, I guess it's the same with, to avoid summer holidays, Christmas holidays, Easter holidays. I think that would be my advice, but I think that's common sense though, actually.
And it might be just when people are looking for a fresh initiative to be involved in, for maybe the start of an academic year, or maybe as a New Year's resolution, for example. Just when people are kind of renewing what they're going to do, then I think perhaps the thought of doing a volunteering role, if you could kind of think about when people are most likely to take up something new like that. And we did find that the November recruitment campaign, although it was one of the first we did, probably had the highest volume of inquiries.
What I think we should do is go ask Luke to interject here from SGOSS, because he probably sees patterns of data and works with hundreds of different organisations across the UK. And what do you think about that question, Luke, around the best time of year?
I mean, I kind of agree with what you and Alison said. In terms of the lay volunteer, we usually see sort of spikes of interest around September, going back to school, after Easter, after Christmas, what Alison said about New Year's resolutions and things like that. People start the new year, people are always looking for a different sort of volunteer project. So, I mean, in terms of the lay volunteer, we do tend to see spikes of applications. But from a company perspective, there really is no bad time to recruit, really. I mean, certain organisations, maybe in the summer, might find a lot of their people going on holiday and things like that. Other organisations might be a lot busier, like tax or financial institutions might have busier times of the year when it's really not best to engage it, because obviously there's that much more work on, really won't think about volunteering. But a lot of organisations structure it differently. So some organisations like to do it in the summer, but there's a bit of downtime, so it's a really good time when people have a bit more time on their hands. And essentially, if anyone applies at any time, really, we can sort of help placement. They apply in the summer when the school governing bodies aren't actually in. We can actually work with schools to make sure that placement's almost set up and ready to go for September. Obviously, when school governing bodies are in session during the term times, that's a lot easier. But essentially, there is no really bad time from a general company's perspective.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you for everybody's questions, and obviously thanks to our speakers for answering them. Due to time, I am conscious that we have now just gone over the hour mark, and that this is probably coming up people's lunch times or the rest of the day. I'm sure everybody's busy. So I think we'll call it a wrap for now. Again, thank you so much to our speakers today. So we have Julian and Alison from the University of Manchester, and of course Luke from SGOSS. As I mentioned before, we will be sharing around any links that were mentioned in today's webinar, as well as the recorded webinar, and a copy of the presentation, and of course the videos, which will be hopefully working later on. Thank you everybody for attending today, and yes, thanks again to our speakers, and hopefully see you all on the next webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.